Hello and welcome to My Digital Quill. We've stepped up on trend-based display of our data in Excel formatting series. The worksheet we are looking at is called Sparklines. First introduced in 2010, this concept gives a snapshot of how our data trend is going to look like without going into too much details, as we may see in regular charts and graphs and display. It's faster, it's easier, and it gives us an aerial view of our data as we will see. Now, as always, please access the exercise file in the description link below and let us get started. So just by looking at the data, you can tell that profits for all provinces are going from negative to positive. The data is negative for most entries in January, February, and March, but as we move forward, the numbers are getting better. Considering these are profits, we want our numbers to go from negative to positive, of course. Now, instead of creating a chart for each of these provinces to compare the trend, let's instead insert sparklines in the cell just to the right of it. And I'm gonna highlight cells N3 through N8 and go in Insert tab. There's a group called Sparklines here, and there are three kinds to it. Line Sparklines are the most common and simplest to go by. So I'm gonna click this, and now it's asking me, where's your source data coming from? Well, our source data is coming from the left of our trend cells. That's where our data is. Now I'm gonna click OK. There are those lines. Let's observe the effect on what happens to these sparklines as we're moving our cells wider or narrower. You see, this makes a point that you can define the impact you want to create with these lines if you want the trend to stay flattened, or in case of this example, we want to keep it narrower so as to underscore the upward trend. You can achieve this through charts, by the way. Or can you? I've already kept my cells height adjusted so as to accentuate the display of the trend. You may want to keep it the same way. There is another aspect that is also important to highlight, and it makes us take advantage of the fact that Sparklines have a special tab made in their name in the ribbon. It used to be Design tab, now it's called Sparklines. And we have a variety of colors to choose for our lines available here. Not really necessary for this example, but it's always good to have options. But more important than this particularly is when there are negatives involved. There is another option to the right, and it's called Axis. Let's show Axis. And this really puts in perspective the fact that we have crossed the zero boundary and moved upward in positive. We can further accentuate this through Show Group in the tab and highlight our high and low points, or have this used in combination of negative points. Or might as well take advantage of markers and show all data points available. Another option here is, instead of using these lines, how about if we use column? Off to the left, column. Now, one downside to it is that our column sparklines are not very proportionate. The highest value in row 1, for example, is 203, whereas if we go down, here's 102. But they aren't looking very different, are they? Well, in order to fix this problem, we go to Axis again and apply same for all sparklines minimum value and same for all sparklines for maximum value. Now you will notice that it isn't looking all bad, is it? But the question is if this is a better sparklines than before. Let's switch it again to Line Sparkline for comparison. Well, I think either one. The third kind of sparkline is called win-loss. Now, as the name suggests, this only focuses if your data to the left is positive or negative. It's not as detailed as the other two, but in some cases it is important only to focus on the positives and negatives regardless of what magnitude or scale you're dealing with in your data. So a few choices here related to sparklines. It gives us a quick picture of how the data trend is looking depending on what and how you want to display it.